All right. So I'm here, Scott Purcell with Blackland Prairie Bees, and we're looking at a hive that this is my first inspection since kind of the end of the likelihood of any hard winter. So this is a pillowcase filled with alpaca wool, and we're going to take that with us today. For now, I'm just going to set this up. I've got RJ here with me, and we're going to do a fairly complete inspection of this hive, where we want to confirm that the queen is present, that she's laying brood, that they have the food they need. We want to see how big the colony is. I've already noted some hive beetle problems, so we'll have to watch that carefully. That's not an immediate problem based on the number that I saw, but they're here. All right. So for those who may not be familiar with the lay-in style hive, they're usually built with a divider board or a follower board, and that's what I just removed. And I've got 7 frames in this colony, and we're going to take a look at each of them. What I can see so far, and I think the camera is positioned so you can see at least the top of the frame, is that this frame is a frame of honey that I left for them, and at least on that side it's barely touched, and on this side it still has ample reserves. So already I'm going to conclude that there's no need to feed any sort of a sugar syrup here. So frame 7, fully drawn out, probably 2/3 full of honey, counting both sides there. All right, frame 6. And I'm not particularly watching for the queen yet, because these are just honey stores. Now here I've got honey, probably about 50%. I've got a little bit of, no, that's not pollen. I think that's just a kind of a yellow cast to the honey cappings. On this side, probably a 1/4 full of honey, and I do see some fresh nectar and a couple of patches of pollen. You see it's bee bread. You see the over here, where right there, it looks kind of moist, but it's clearly pollen and not nectar.
Yeah,
that's bee bread. They take pollen, they mix it with nectar and with their own saliva, and they feed that to the baby bees. It's their protein source. They can also feed pollen directly. When you see it made into bee bread, that's how they try to preserve it for the winter. And here we've got, look at the yellow patches. That's going to be the pollen. Yeah, so this is maybe, it's just got a little bit of honey, a lot of fresh nectar in it, and interspersed with quite a bit of pollen. So now I'm satisfied that they probably don't need any kind of supplement, not just the nectar, but I don't think they need pollen sub either.
so that stick.
Yeah, that stick is there deliberately to elevate this, okay, the divider board, so that they have access to the rest of the colony. Now I see one bee with nice big, what we call pollen pants, a big clump of pollen on each of her back legs. Let's see if we can. Now this frame or this comb is really lightweight, means it's mostly empty. So here's the one with the pollen pants. She's hiding from the camera. There's all right, here's something interesting for you, RJ. If you look down in here, so if we find a bee with pollen, you'll see that it's kind of a elongated shape. if you look down in these cells, there are several little clumps of pollen. They're not mashed flat yet. That's what happens. The bee that gathers the pollen will come and put those clumps in, and then other bees will come and manipulate it so that it is flat. Now it's really hard for me to see in this bright light what the camera sees, but hopefully I'm getting it at a good angle for focus. Maybe I can, in editing, highlight what I'm trying to point out to RJ.
I see one.
Oh, here's something else. You see those little bitty things at the bottom of those cells? Looks like a teeny tiny grain of rice.
Yes.
Those are eggs.
Oh, wow.
Not only that, those are eggs in drone-sized cells. So what that means, the queen will sense the size of the cell. She'll lay an unfertilized egg in those cells, and that will make drones. And that they're making drones means that they're ready to start working their way towards a swarm. These bees are nowhere near out of space. Oh, you know what I should have brought? Should have brought my bucket full of additional frames. No, we took them all out last night.
Yeah.
All right, here is our big patch of brood. Now what I'm looking at here, the pattern is just gorgeous. So it's solid. There's a few spaces that are missed, but even they're only a few days behind the rest.
Pollen pants.
Yeah, pollen pants. Now this frame, because it has brood on it, is a good candidate for us to find the queen. Can you see the little white larva in there? Look out here.
I think so.
Here, step around to my left.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do see
It
them.
really stands out in the sunlight. And next to them, we see some very small larvae in a milky white substance. That's the royal jelly.
Bring it further this way. Yeah. That's
I don't know if the camera will see any of that, but
all right here.
Yeah. And what we'll likely have is a lot more of those cells will have eggs in them, even if they're a little hard for us to see against this dark background. Now, what I want to do before I set this down, I want to look at any place where there's like a double depth of bees, looking to see if there is a queen there. I'm watching for a distinctive style of movement. The queen is a little more, the bees tend to react more to what's around them. The queen goes where she wants. And all right, now we want to look. We've got a nice brood pattern on this side, lots of pollen there. I'm looking for the queen. All right, I don't see the queen. We don't have to see the queen because we've seen eggs, we've seen brood in all stages. All right, so that I believe was our first frame that actually had brood on it. And at this stage of the spring, it's not bad if we only have a couple of frames of brood. That will be increasing quickly in the next little bit. We have forecasts of an unbroken string of 70 to 80 degree days and above 40 degree nights. Now they're drawing this comb a little bit wonky. A couple of they're turned kind of sideways. So there's pollen pants and another example of where they've got a lot of pollen that's not been compressed down yet. We've got brood here. and I'm looking for the queen. She's going to be hard to spot because of the twisted nature of some of these comb segments. One little trick, RJ, is when you are looking for the queen and you flip it over, the first place you watch is near the edges, because often the queen will try to stay out of the light, and so you turn it over one way and she's going to try to go over to the other side. See a big bee, but it's just a big worker bee. Oh, no, no queen there. They're making a queen cup.
This one?
Yep. So there's no eggs laid there. This seems, so often the bees will make a queen cup just to have one available ready. But there's no larva there. Some beekeepers will knock them down, and we're pointing at this one right there. Some beekeepers will knock them down anytime they see them. For me, I'm just going to regard that as practice until they fill it with larva. If they fill it with larva, that's an indication that they're getting ready to swarm, and we would try to take some action to probably do a split. All right. So once again, I do not see the queen here. It's funny, you start to see those bees with the pollen pants, and because some of my queens would have been marked with yellow, it's like, oh, no, that's not her.
What's this?
No.
I'm really bad at spotting queens.
Have you seen them yet?
Glimpses of previous ones.
Next time we spot one, I'll try to call it out to you more. Let's see. I think I probably had that in this way. I try to always reinsert the frames in the same orientation. All right, and here we are at the end frame. This would be frame 1.
Whoa, there's a lot of bees.
She could be on this one too, because there's brood on this.
See some smaller bees.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that one. The big.
Yeah, it's not a queen though. The queen, you want to watch for a very elongated body, and her wings are not as long in proportion to her body as the worker bees. So she could be on the walls in the hive, on the floor of the hive, or somewhere under a bee, or when they want to make themselves hidden, it can be challenging. All right, so we're going to consider this hive queen right because we've got all the signs of a queen, even though we haven't found her. They have ample food, although the actual, look how we've lost some nectar out of these frames. What that tells us is, and pollen. They're finding plenty right now. This would not have been liquid enough to fall out like that if it were from last winter or from before the winter. So that means they're finding that from flowers today, and the pollen is recent as well. So just to be To get everything closer to where the brood is, I'm going to take this one honey frame from the back end and I'm going to move it over here to the wall. And that way the brood will be close to food. All right. And the rest of it we're just going to put back as it was. So we've got 3 frames of brood. A rule of thumb, RJ, is that now not all of them were full of brood, but they were ample sized patches of brood.
Mm-hmm.
1 frame of brood, when they all hatch, gives you the population to cover 3 frames of bees.
Okay.
Which means we're about to have quite the population explosion. Within the next 3 weeks, we will have enough bees to cover an additional 9 frames, more or less. And that means that before we go on to our next hives that are also more or less in this part of town, I think we're going to go back to the house and get some more frames. We'll probably bring a few more in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then have them ready for the other bees. All right, I don't know that there's anything more we need to do here. All right, we'll take this with us. Where did my other, there it is. This hive tool stays with the hive. Usually just hang it like that. This one I'll take with me. And now after we go get some more frames, we will continue inspecting at our next hive.